Leadership Talk. Risk Management, Foundation Documents, Constitution and Bylaws, April 2020. What is Leadership Talk? Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development industry leadership staff provide free webinars on building the organizational capacity within the agriculture sector, which results in high-performing organizations. This content is designed for informational purposes only. The information is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Organizations should consult their professional advisors related to specific situations. This webinar will look at the definition of Constitution and Bylaws, the requirements, best practices, and consequences. The Gage Canadian Dictionary 1998 has these definitions. Constitution, the way in which anything is organized, structure, or the system of fundamental principles according to which a nation, state, or group is governed, or a document stating these principles. Bylaw, a local law, a law made by a city, company, or club, etc., for the control of its own affairs. Constitution and bylaws. Is there a difference? The short answer is yes. These two terms are often used interchangeably, but are quite different. Many organizations combine their constitution and bylaws into one larger document, which may go under either name. The best definitions I have found come from the fact sheet Starting an Organization from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. The fact sheet shares this information. The constitution of an organization states the purpose of the organization. It also states the structure and methods of operation of the organization. Constitutions are long-term decisions. Power to create bylaws is usually given in the Constitution. Bylaws represent a rulebook for day-to-day procedures. The fact sheet goes on to give two simple checklists that cover what should be included in a constitution and in bylaws. I'll share these, but will not go into detail on what is covered. Our focus today is strategies to protect yourself and your organization, rather than how to develop a constitution or bylaws. This constitution checklist shows items that are commonly included. The objective of the Constitution is to cover the basic requirements in a clear and concise manner. It covers the fundamental principles, but does not go into specific details on operating the organization. Clear and concise is the operative description. I have seen constitutions as short as 4 pages. You may find that you seldom need to amend your constitution. The fact sheet includes this bylaws checklist. You'll find that it has more information on day-to-day activities. Bylaws are detailed procedures to conduct business in an orderly manner. They cannot contradict the Constitution, and they may require amendments to update regularly. What are your responsibilities or best practices as an organization, as a board member, as an organization member? As an organization, you must have a copy available. You need to follow the requirements as outlined. You need to keep it up to date to reflect how the organization operates, and you need to follow the requirements as outlined in any legislation if applicable. For example, the Corporations Act of Manitoba states that a corporation shall prepare and maintain at its registered office or at another place in Manitoba designated by the directors records containing the articles and the bylaws and the amendments to them and a copy of any unanimous shareholder agreement. This also holds true for registered charities. Best practice also tells an organization that members should have access to a copy of the Constitution and bylaws. This may be made available as part of an initial membership package or on request. Is your organization governed by any legislation? Examples would include the Provincial Corporations Act, the Provincial Agricultural Societies Act, the Federal Corporation Act, The Federal Charities Act. As an organization, you are responsible for ensuring that your constitution and bylaws follow the regulations that govern you under the applicable act. In most cases, a copy of the act can be located by an electronic search of the provincial or federal government website. As a board member, be familiar with the contents of both documents. Follow the requirements as outlined. Hold the organization accountable. Actively participate in review and revision. Remember that as a board member, you have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the organization and in a trustworthy manner. It is the responsibility of each individual board member to know what is involved in being a director in the organization. The organization you serve should provide you with necessary documentation in the form of an organization package or board manual containing the Constitution, bylaws, policies, meeting schedules, and other important information. As a member, be familiar with the contents of both documents. Follow the requirements as outlined. Hold the organization accountable, and be engaged. Here are some questions to ask as an organization. Where are the original copies of the Constitution and bylaws stored? Do you know where to locate a copy of your Constitution and bylaws and other governing documents? These should be stored safely together. I would like to encourage you to have at least 2 copies stored in separate locations in case of fire, flood, or theft. As your executive changes, they should be updated on where these storage locations are. How many of us have been involved with an organization that isn't sure where to find a key document because of changeover in board members or staff? Governing documents could include, but are not limited to, Constitution and bylaws, letters of patent for federally incorporated organizations, stamped articles of incorporation for Manitoba incorporated organizations, an organization seal if you have one. Some organizations may have a charter that was granted when they were first organized, for example, agricultural societies. Are you following the guidelines? This is a key question. If your board or organization is not following the Constitution or bylaws, why is this happening? When did the changes occur? What needs to be done to either return to the guidelines or update them to follow current practices? Can changes be made, or must the organization return to the original guidelines? When was the last time it was revised? Has your Constitution and bylaws ever been revised? You should be able to determine this by checking the documents. Your Constitution and bylaws should be signed and dated on the day they were accepted by motion by your organization. Revisions will be noticed either in the title, on the front page, or at the end of the document. The final way would be to review the minutes of your annual meetings, where most organizations will present revisions to the membership for adoption. This method will take time. Do we need to revise anything? It is generally recommended that the Constitution and bylaws should be reviewed by a committee on an annual basis. I think I can confidently state that this does not occur in most organizations, but it is the gold standard to aim for. What are the consequences of having a constitution and bylaws that are not being followed? This may leave the organization liable to prosecution or action by the government. It may leave the organization liable to prosecution by others, including members or the community. It causes undue stress to the board members. It may mean missing out on financial opportunities. Some grant applications require a copy of your Constitution and bylaws. It may cause a loss of trust by the membership or the community at large. If left unrepaired, it could mean that the organization loses its reputation and ultimately impacts on the willingness of others to partner or provide financial support. Why make amendments? Something is missing. A long-term procedure has changed. Clarification. Changes to reflect new technology. Changes to accepted best practices, and compliance with legislation. For example, in working with organizations, we found that they may not have a conflict of interest guideline as part of their bylaws, or do not have anything included to handle dissolution of the organization. Organizations may find that a bylaw is not clear in its meaning. One example would be reasons to remove a board member or member from the organization. The bylaw allowed for the removal, but did not detail the circumstances that allowed or how to be reinstated. Meeting notifications is an example of a long-term procedure that may be noted in your bylaws. Most organizations state that they must be in writing by mail. However, many are now actually using electronic notifications or are directing members to websites for documents instead of mailing a copy. If you are using electronic means of communication, you may also consider ensuring that it is the responsibility of the member to provide you with the most up-to-date contact information. Are you meeting by conference call or other electronic means? Are you voting on important decisions that require a fast turnaround by email? Do your bylaws reflect this? Are you complying with any legislation that governs you? How to make amendments. The committee would look at both the Constitution and bylaws to determine if anything needs to be deleted, added, or amended. This is followed by a report to the executive and/or the board, usually with recommendations and background material. The committee describes why the change needs to be made. Often as a part of the formal amendment process, the organization will include this in the report to the membership when a motion is brought forward for voting. I would strongly recommend that you seek legal advice on changes to your constitution or bylaws. This will ensure that you are complying with the laws governing your organization. And finally, follow the current guidelines for adopting the revisions. This varies greatly from organization to organization. What do your constitution and bylaws say? Organization guidelines for amendments. What does the Constitution and bylaws say? Does it need to happen at an AGM? How far in advance does the membership need to be notified? When does it come into effect? Are any other notifications or approvals necessary? Please be aware of any other items that affect your ability to change your Constitution and bylaws. Are you governed by any legislative acts? For example, agricultural societies in Manitoba must have changes to their constitution and bylaws approved by the Superintendent of Agricultural Societies, and the changes must be in compliance with the Agricultural Society Act. If you are incorporated, your constitution and bylaws cannot transgress the rules outlined in the Corporation Act. Did this change have an effect on your articles of incorporation if you are incorporated? If so, you must file a change of articles of incorporation with the Companies Office. Failure to do these may result in complications in operating your organization and, in the case of ag societies, may affect your eligibility for grants. To summarize, be aware of your responsibilities or best practices as an organization, as a board member, as an organization member. Know where the original copies are stored. Follow the guidelines. Review regularly. Revise as necessary. Seek professional advice. If you are looking for assistance, contact one of the Rural Leadership Specialists with Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development. We have worked with a number of agricultural organizations to assist them in revising their constitution and bylaws. Don't hesitate to call us. There are a number of resources on the internet that can be of assistance. Although most of our organizations are not charities, there is still some excellent information included in this website. Of particular interest are the Fast Facts sections that cover bylaw changes. The Government of Canada offers model bylaws for not-for-profit corporations, and this is a link to the fact sheet I mentioned, Starting an Organization, from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. The Province of Manitoba Family Services also offers two excellent resources. The first is Constitution and Bylaws, and the second is a bylaws checklist. Stay connected. Send questions to leadership@gov.mb.ca. Make time to visit our Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development Industry Leadership webpage at www.gov.mb.ca/agriculture. There you will find a number of resources, including fact sheets and worksheets, templates, and guidebooks that will help you strengthen your organization. You will also find contact information for rural leadership specialists who are available to work with your ag organization. The website contains a wealth of information related to starting an organization, developing a strategic plan, being a board member, board operations, and dissolving an organization. The resources section also contains a number of tools and links that you will find helpful. Please join the conversation with Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development. Subscribe to our newsletter, visit our website, call our general inquiries line, view our videos on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter.